There are days when Santa Clara feels like it's breathing heavier, and this is one of them. The draft is getting close, the rumors are starting to heat up, and every signal coming out of the 49ers feels like it could lead to something big. Today we're talking pass rush pressure, a major rumor on offense, movement in the wide receiver room, and protection for the future of this offensive line. So hit that like button right now and stay with me, because this one hits right at the heart of the fan base. Because when the conversation moves past random ideas and starts looking like an actual plan, 49ers fans pay attention in a different way. And that's exactly where this thing is going now. Instead of spending all this energy trying to guess what flashy move they could make on offense, there's a growing argument that San Francisco should use this draft to finish reloading the defense. And honestly, as a fan who understands what this team is supposed to be, that makes a lot of sense. Ben Solak from ESPN pointed to two spots that hit right at the core of this roster: a splashy edge rusher and a starting caliber safety. That is not a timid idea. That is not a maintenance move. That sounds like a team trying to get its teeth back. Because when the Niners' defense is full, aggressive, and deep, everything changes. The identity comes back, the fear comes back, and more than anything, the team stops needing perfection on every single drive. A lot of people look at this draft and immediately think offense. A wide receiver to go with Mike Evans and Ricky Pearsall. An offensive tackle to start preparing for life after Trent Williams. Even tight end has shown up in some projections. But maybe the best way to help the offense is not by starting there. Maybe it's by giving the defense back its power to swing games, shorten drives, wreck offensive game plans, and put San Francisco back in control physically. And this draft actually sets up well for that because it looks unpredictable. After the expectation of Fernando Mendoza going at the top, the class starts to open up, and the opinions get all over the place. That is exactly where a well-prepared team can steal value. At 27, names like Keldrick Falk or Akeem Mesidor could turn into dream scenarios if they slide. In a more realistic range, Cassius Howell, TJ Parker, and Zion Young would all be serious names to watch. There are other profiles to keep an eye on too, like Malachi Lawrence and R. Mason Thomas, but the feeling is clear. If the 49ers want an edge with real impact, the first round looks like their best shot. Then comes the other layer, and it's a big one: safety. Dylan Thieneman might be too optimistic at that spot. Emmanuel McNeil-Warren may also go too early. But deeper on the board, there are still options like Zakee Wheatley, Traden Stukes, Genesis Smith, A.J. Halsey, Kamari Ramsey, Bud Clark, and Michael Taff. And you know what really stands out to me about this whole idea? It feels like contender logic. This is not a draft plan built to check boxes. It's built to bring back aggression, presence, and immediate answers to a defense that still needs two real pieces before it feels like a true 49ers defense again. And if defense feels like the path to rebuilding strength, the second story today hits a completely different nerve, because it goes straight to that part of the fan base that starts imagining the kind of chaos Kyle Shanahan can create when he gets his hands on a different kind of weapon. The name that jumped into that conversation is De'Von Achane, and the second that fit shows up on the horizon, the fan base starts dreaming. Not because something is done, not because a move is already in motion, but because the idea alone is enough to set your mind racing if you've watched this offense closely. The Dolphins are still publicly signaling that they want to keep him, but this is the NFL. Temperatures change fast. A player looks untouchable one day, and the next day a strong offer, a shift in direction, or a different internal plan changes everything. And when it comes to Achane, the reason San Francisco is even showing up in this conversation is simple: football fit, style, explosiveness. It just feels like the kind of player Shanahan could turn into a nightmare for every defense in the league. Achane has ridiculous burst, changes the pace of a game with one touch, and punishes space in a way very few players can. He's not just a fast running back. He's one of those guys who distorts the defense before he even touches the ball, because his speed forces hesitation, panic, and constant adjustment. Now imagine that inside an offense that already has Christian McCaffrey. That's where this thing really starts to heat up, because this would not be some normal move for another back. This would be a chance to stack explosive playmakers, add real change of pace juice, and make the 49ers offense even more dangerous. And what makes this rumor so interesting is that it's not coming from desperation. San Francisco is not out here begging for another running back. What they are doing is staying alert to any opportunity to raise the ceiling of the unit. And that's what contenders do. They don't just fill holes, they turn strengths into unfair advantages. In that kind of picture, Achane would be exactly that. A player who can split the load, attack in different ways, and keep defenses in a constant state of stress. Will it happen? That's a different conversation. The cost would matter. Miami's situation matters. The timing matters. But some rumors just float by, and some hang in the air because the fit is too good to ignore. This is one of those. And if that door ever really opens, the idea of Achane in Santa Clara would be enough to shake up the entire offseason. There are also moves happening in Santa Clara that don't explode like a giant headline, but still tell you a lot about what the front office is seeing. And KC Concepcion's visit falls exactly into that category. While a lot of people are only staring at the biggest names, the 49ers are still digging for pieces that can change the shape of the rotation without owning the whole news cycle. And honestly, if you follow this team closely, that kind of move should never be brushed off like it means nothing. Concepcion visited with the 49ers this week in a pre-draft meeting, with that confirmation coming late in the evaluation process before the 2026 draft. And it matters even more because the wide receiver room has changed a lot. Mike Evans and Christian Kirk came in, which already changed the picture of the roster. But the departures of Juwan Jennings, Kendrick Bourne, and Sky Moore, along with the expectation that Brandon Ayuk is on the way out, have pushed this room into a place where adding another piece no longer feels like a luxury. It feels structural. That's where KC Concepcion starts to make a lot of sense. He does not just show up as another wide receiver name to throw on a list. His profile points to something the 49ers have always valued on offense: yards after the catch, versatility with the ball in his hands, and the ability to affect the game in more than one way. Across 3 seasons between NC State and Texas A&M, he put up 185 catches, 2,218 yards, and 25 touchdowns. He also carried the ball 70 times for 431 yards and 3 more scores. That alone grabs your attention, but the number that really jumps off the page is this: 1,232 of his career receiving yards came after the catch, according to Pro Football Focus. That stat connects directly to the kind of offense Shanahan loves to build: space, quick decisions, motion, threat after the catch. And it doesn't stop there. In 2025, Concepcion also made plays as a punt returner, with 456 yards and 2 touchdowns. So the conversation stops being just, can he help as a receiver, and turns into, how many ways can this guy earn a role and start helping fast? For a roster that is still trying to reshape its identity in that room, this kind of profile could grow faster than people expect. Not because he comes in with the label of a ready-made answer, but because on strong teams, smart depth changes seasons. And when the Niners spend time on a player like this late in the process, the message feels clear. They are still looking for explosion, versatility, and guys who can make the offense come alive again with the ball in their hands. And there's another front moving in Santa Clara that might carry the most delicate weight of all, because it touches a subject the fan base does not even like thinking about too hard. The day the 49ers are going to have to live without Trent Williams owning the edge of this offensive line. Nobody wants to rush that conversation because Trent still commands respect, still changes games, still represents the physical force of this team. But time doesn't stop, and when the franchise starts doing serious work on first-round tackles with this level of attention, that tells you something inside the building is being faced head-on. Caleb Lomu's visit to the 49ers facility and the recent meeting with Kadyn Proctor put that entire idea right in the middle of the board. It is not normal to see San Francisco connected this strongly to tackles of this level without a bigger thought process behind it, especially because under Kyle Shanahan, this team has barely touched the position early in the draft since Mike McGlinchey in 2018. The history says caution. That's exactly why this new movement stands out, and Proctor is the name that really sparks the debate. He's one of those prospects who splits opinion, and maybe that's exactly why he's so intriguing. Is there inconsistency in his game? Yes. There are moments where the pass protection wobbles and the lateral movement raises questions. But when you look at his physical ceiling, the conversation changes fast. We are talking about a 6'7", 352-pound athlete with rare size, long arms, and the kind of raw power that can completely swallow one side of the line when everything clicks. That kind of talent is not something a team ignores when it has to think about both the present and what comes next. And here's where it gets even more interesting. San Francisco may not be looking at a player like this as only the tackle of the future. There is an opening at left guard right now, and that creates a really smart bridge between an immediate need and a planned succession move. If the 49ers believe one of these guys can start inside and then kick back outside later, the pick becomes more than a replacement. It becomes a continuity move to protect Purdy for years. The market also helps explain the urgency. Proctor has been connected to teams picking right around this range, like the Eagles, Browns, Chiefs, and Dolphins. So if the Niners really love him, they may not have the luxury of playing around and waiting too long. And in a class where the top tackles could rise quickly because of the drop-off after that main group, the risk of missing the timing is real. So let me throw this to the fan base. If you were in the 49ers war room, would you go offensive line at 27 thinking about life after Trent Williams and protecting Purdy? Or would you slam the table for another need? Because to me, this feels like one of those decisions that changes the direction of the team long before everybody realizes it. And if I had to give you my honest read, it's pretty simple. I like the direction the 49ers are showing right now. Not because every rumor or every visit is going to turn into a real answer, but because this team feels like it's moving with urgency and true contender ambition. To me, the best sign is not one single name. It's the full picture. Defense is being treated seriously. The offense is being thought through with creativity, and the offensive line is finally becoming part of a real long-term conversation. That to me looks like a franchise that is alive, alert, and hungry. And when San Francisco operates like that, I take it very seriously.